Hello, and welcome to the Youngfolk Knits podcast. This is episode 11. Welcome to episode 11 of the Youngfolk Knits podcast. My name is Casey and I am the maker at Youngfolk Knits. You can find me on Instagram at youngfolk.knits and on Ravelry at Casey Apple. If you're returning, thank you so much. You have no idea how much I appreciate you supporting my channel. And if you're a new viewer, then you are very welcome. This is a podcast mainly about knitting, sometimes sewing, and who knows what else. Last week there was some beadwork. I also live on a small farm in Arkansas with my family and our beehives and our chickens. So there's lots of farm news included as well. I can't believe it. It's already February the 5th, and here in Arkansas we have had a very cold week. Very cold week for Arkansans anyway. This week's edition of Things We Say in the South When It's Cold. You might hear it's colder than a brass toilet seat on the shady side of an iceberg. So that's all for this week's segment on Things We Say in the South. Next week, tune in for Things We Say in the South When We're Mad. I have a lot of family that live up north, and I know that they just crack up at all of us down here in the South every time we get a little bit of winter weather. I don't know if we made this word up or not. We call it a snowstorm. And basically that can mean any type of wintry precipitation, whether it sticks or not, however lightly of a dusting. So I will, that we get a lot of jokes about everything closing up down here whenever we have some snow. But the problem mainly is that snow is one thing. You can drive on snow. Snow's pretty. It's not that big of a deal. But ice, on the other hand, it's a little bit more tricky for us anyway. So what we get often is freezing rain, and that water, it comes down as rain, as water, and it hits the light poles, the electric lines, and it freezes, and then more, water falls on it and freezes, and they get very heavy, and our electricity will go out because our power lines will break. And unless you live on a farm and have a four-wheel drive truck, a lot of people aren't equipped for driving on winter weather covered roads. So they get out there being silly and end up running into a power line, and then we lose power. So a lot of times we just close up shop all around town whenever we get a snowstorm. which we did get this week, and it was mainly sleet, a lot of ice. It's not good for snowmen or snowball fights, but it was still pretty to look at. My kiddos had a blast sledding. We still have quite a bit of ice left, but it's above freezing today. It's 36, I think last time I looked, so it's starting to melt. We probably won't have much left tomorrow. So yes, we are wimps down here when it comes to cold weather. Anything under 50 degrees, it is freezing, but it does mean I get to wear some nice woolly accessories when it's cold outside, so I am excited. Today I am wearing my Birch Creek bandana, which is a pattern by September Knits, or Rachel M. Reese on Instagram, and it is knit from Farmer's Daughter Fibers, Foxy Lady. And I think originally the pattern calls for So Copy and Foxy Lady, like one of each, or maybe one Foxy Lady and two So Copy, but I did it in only Foxy Lady, and I only needed one skein of each, and I did not use all of my yarn. I think it's more of a light fingering, and so it went quite a bit further, but I am very pleased with this bandana. So it is blocked, and it has this really lovely I-cord edging. Look at those nice corners. And then you have these stripes of brioche, 2-color brioche. And it's just this big square. And I really, really have loved wearing it this week. I finished it last week. And so I've been wearing it quite a bit. I can't remember exactly when I finished it, but ever since it has got off the needles, I have loved it. The Foxy Lady base is a singles yarn, and it is made from wool, merino wool, and silk. So it has, the silk gives it this lovely sheen, which I also think singles in general tend to have, and it takes the color in just this amazing way, very saturated. And I love their Foxy Lady base from Farmer's Daughter Fibers. So the way I wear it is I just fold it like you would a bandana, and then I wrap it around and tie it in the back, and I may or may not pull my hair out. But I really like it. It's not too much. It doesn't overwhelm me because, let's be honest, it's not usually that cold here. But I feel like it's just the perfect amount for me to wear regularly. And the silk is light. It gives it a lightness. So I love it. One thing I did have happen is I was not paying attention, and I messed up a brioche stitch. And then when I tried to fix it, I realized that when I tried to fix it, I messed it up in a different way. So I had to pull out 4 brioche stitches all the way down to most of the bandana that I had knitted so far. And I had to go back and fix one at a time to untangle. I had it twisted. I had 2 of the yarns accidentally twisted. So I had to undo all 4 of those stitches to fix it. And that was an undertaking. My knitting time is limited, and I feel like a whole day of knitting was spent solely fixing an error that I had made on the brioche. Thankfully, the whole thing isn't brioche, it's just these stripes. But when I blocked it, I think that you couldn't even tell that I had fixed it. All the stitches got rearranged nicely, and the tension was good everywhere. So it blocked really well. And thank goodness for crochet hooks when fixing brioche mistakes. So that is both what I'm wearing and a finished object, but I actually have one more finished object, so we'll go ahead and move into that category. So as soon as I finished this bandana, I had to focus solely on this teddy bear sweater for my little girl. She picked out this yarn. It is Lamco yarns, and it's a superwash DK weight yarn. And the pattern is by Petite Knit. Now, she has you embroider a face of a teddy bear on the front of the sweater, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be a little bit more classic and able to wear with anything, basically. And it reminds me of the fit. I feel like it's basically the no frills sweater, but for a child, child size. It's just very classic raglan shaping. And you can either hold like a fingering weight yarn with mohair, or just do a DK weight. I just did a DK weight. I am wildly allergic to mohair. Not only could I not knit with it, I don't think my daughter could wear it. She's very sensitive as well to everything. So this turned out really well. So I have done what I call a tubular bind off. And I'll just be honest, I'm still somewhat confused on what is textbook tubular bind off. I need to get some clarification on that. I need to do some research. I'm sure there are many of you who are much more experienced and knowledgeable than I am. You could help me in the comments. I am going to do some research though. But I know that a lot of tubular bind off, a lot of times it is done with, you know, 2 needles. You separate your stitches onto 2 needles. You have your knits on 1 stitch, your purls on 1 stitch when it's ribbing, and then you sew with a certain stitch pattern to bind off your stitches. If you search under tubular bind off, Very Pink Knits, yeah, Very Pink Knits. She is a knitting tutorial genius. She has lots and lots and lots and lots of tutorials on YouTube. And she has a tutorial that says tubular bind off. And you do not have that. You don't have 2 needles. It's all on 1 needle. And you do, you know, a couple stitches just to set it up. And then you use your needle and you basically do like a sewn bind off with maybe 4, I think it's a 4-step stitch process to get those stitches bound off of your needle. And that is what I do. That's what I've always done. I mean, there's been a few times that I've done a 2 needle like Kitchener style bind off, but most of the time I just do that tubular bind off, which is the way she shows you how to do it on Very Pink Knits. So my question is, Italian bind off, sewn bind off, tubular bind off, what is the difference in all of those technically by the book, you know, and what is it called that I've been doing? Is that a true tubular bind off? I don't know, but it works for me, so I'm still doing it. Anyway, that is what I do for almost everything. I haven't done just a normal bind off and pattern in a long time. And I did that for this sweater, just a bind off and rib pattern. And I thought it looked so nice and so clean, and I was really happy with it. It's been so long. Let me see. I mean, I think that looks pretty clean. I was very happy with it. And then here's the, so this has not been blocked yet, but she has already worn this out in the snow and playing outside already. So I'll just put that in there. But, you know, I think that the bind off looks really well. So I don't want to completely forget about that bind off and never do it anymore and only do a tubular bind off, because a tubular bind off does require a lot more time and more yarn. It is it's stretchy and pretty, but I think that there's a place for it, and that there's also a place for bind off and pattern. So I don't want to be afraid to use this bind off as well. And that is all of my finished objects. So let's move into works in progress, because I have a couple things to show you. So I finished my daughter's teddy bear sweater, and I was watching Little Fern Fiber's podcast with Ellie, and she had just finished a Terrazzo slipover by Petite Knit. So I have this dress, and I've been trying to figure out which vest or slipover that I want to make to go with it, and I was heavily influenced by Ellie to immediately cast on the Terrazzo slipover with some yarn I had on hand. So this is it so far. You knit the back first, and then you do you pick up stitches to do the shoulders, and you pick up stitches in a way on the, what shoulder is this? Left shoulder, in a way that I have never done before. So normally whenever you are picking up stitches, you're going to pick it up and knit it, and you're using your working yarn. But the way you did it on this side, you're using your tail yarn. So you're going to get enough yarn as a tail yarn to use for picking up all of your stitches. And you know, I started right here, and so using my tail yarn, I picked up like 17 stitches, something like that. And then when I got through, I just had my tail yarn left over, and instead of turning my work, you slide your needle back through, your circular needle back through to the other side, and then you start knitting on that same side, and then you're now using your working yarn. And it made such a nice cast on edge of picked up stitches that literally I could not see. Like, I don't think you could see it if I had been using Surrey. Let me just show you. So that's it. I mean, you can see it, but it looks pretty good. I'm proud of it. So I didn't have any Surrey on hand. Like I said, I'm allergic to mohair. I couldn't use mohair, and I didn't have any Surrey on hand. So I cast on with some yarn I had, and it is, let me get it. So I just cast on using some yarn I had, and I am using this Berroco Ultra Alpaca, and it is in the color caramel or camel. Let me look. It doesn't say. Okay, I don't see a color on it. I think it's caramel though. It says it is color 62102. And this is 50% alpaca, 50% Peruvian wool. So I knew that that Peruvian wool would help it keep its shape, but I still wanted a little bit of a halo because I wasn't gonna be using a strand of mohair or Surrey alpaca lace weight. And so I don't know if you can see, but there is a bit of, just a tiny bit of fuzzy halo. And I think the more I wear it, the more that will come out. But it's very soft, but it's also very sturdy. It's very sturdy, and the stitch definition is incredible. I think I would love to knit cables or color work with this. But anyway, I knit the back, I picked up stitches, knit one shoulder, picked up stitches, knit the other shoulder, and joined the front, and then I had knit down until I had joined in the round. And whenever it was basically, you know, a couple of rounds, and it was time for me to add another ball of yarn, and I decided to just go ahead and pick up my neckline and work that, because I like to be able to see the top fully done as I go down, and it gives me a little bit better idea of how much yarn I have left. It might affect the length of my sweater, and also it affects the length sometimes with how it looks, and I can't get a full picture if I don't have the top done the way I like it. So I went ahead, you're supposed to knit it to almost 9 inches. It's like 8.5 inches, and I'm done. I've already started what I'm calling a tubular bind off, because that's what Very Pink Knits calls it. Which you can see, I've started that right here, and I'm gonna bind that off, and then I'll have the folded over turtleneck And I'm glad it doesn't feel, it does, I mean, it's not scratchy like a super rustic, scratchy, woolly yarn, but it's not, I mean, there's a bit of itch factor, but I think it's going to be fine. And I think after I block it, I'm going to be very interested to see what it feels like at that point. So next I need to pick up the armholes and do the ribbing on that. So I was telling you, this was it was something. Not only are you doing twisted rib as far as the knit stitches, you also have to twist your purl stitches because you're gonna fold it over. So those purl stitches, or on the other side, they're gonna be your knit stitches. They have to be twisted as well. My hands have hated me for the past few days, but it is done. It is done. And next I just need to do my armhole ribbing. So then I'll knit to the length that I want it. And I'm going to show you a picture of this sweater or slipover from the designer, Petite Knit. And if you notice, the back is a little bit longer than the front, and it is pretty long in the back. I do not want mine to be that long. I will be wearing it with a dress a lot, and I definitely want mine to be shorter than pictured. So I'm not sure how many inches I will be knitting to from the armhole, the bottom of the armhole, the cast on there. But I know, I'm glad I'll be able to try it on as I go, and I think it'll help that I've done the neck because I'll get a more accurate picture of length when I try it on. And that's why I love knitting top down. So this is the dress, I'll just show you, that I have been wanting one to go with. So I love these sleeves. Okay, it's falling off my hanger, sorry. These are the sleeves. They're these like really floaty, what are they called? Bishop sleeve? No. Balloon sleeves. And then it's got this pleated skirt. And I think that this color, what do y'all think? You think that will look good with that? I think so. And I mean, this is a very neutral color that I'll be able to wear with a lot of different things in my closet. So I'm very happy with how that is turning out. And I'm hoping I can finish that. I've only been working on it for a few days, so I'm hoping I can finish that in the next week or so. I was very bad and cast on something new and didn't finish my junction sweater. I only worked a couple rounds on it. I really need to pick that up and finish it. It's hard. So the other thing that I have been working on is I got this yarn out. This is a mitten that I made, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it. I will put it on the screen here though. Something to do with snowflake, I want to say. But this is it's a very low contrast knit, but it is some of my favorite colors. So this is it Rowan yarn? No, hang on, the Fibre Company. Yes, the Fibre Co. So it says that it is a rustic blend of silk, noil, baby alpaca, and merino wool. This is a DK weight, and I really do love it. It's very soft, like zero itch factor for me whatsoever. I would love to have this in a hat or something around my neck. I really like it a lot. And these are the two colors that I'm using in the ball. So I've got one done, and it has this super sweet picot edge. Isn't that cute? And then it has this colorwork motif, and I think that in the pattern it has you do the picot edge in the darker color of the mitten, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it in the contrast color, and I really like the way that turned out. So then you have this snowflake pattern on the front, and then, you know, much smaller color work of snowflakes on the back. and even the thumb has a snowflake pattern on it. So I really like it. The pattern has it where you can do mitten liners for it. I think you're supposed to, but I'm not doing that. This is plenty for here where I live. I think it's perfect. So I'm trying to get the second one finished up, and I'm knitting them on size it's US 3. What is that? 3.25 millimeter 9-inch circulars and 32-inch magic loop for some of the other ones. And I have this in the bag with them. It's Tuft Woolens Honey Lavender Sock Soap. Oh, wait a second. There we go. It's, yeah, Honey Lavender. It is absolutely one of my favorite scents. I mean, it is so light and airy, and I love it. So I keep it in this bag, and my mittens smell and yarn smell like it. I also have some yarn in here that I was going to make the it's from the book Knits About Winter by Emily Foden. What are they called? I'll link it below, and I'll put it on the screen here so you know what I'm talking about. But this is the yarn that I was going to use for that. It's some Hedgehog Fibers sock yarn in the color Stone, I think, but I never did cast them on. Maybe this summer I'll have some knit up before winter next year. Okay, that is all my works in progress. I do actually have a little bit of sewing today, so I'll show you that. So I love all things quilt, heritage quilt, barn quilts, all of the old quilt patterns I absolutely love, especially the star quilt blocks. They're my favorite. But there were some fat quarters on sale from an online fabric shop, and as soon as I saw the colors, I mean, there were a lot of them, but I saw these specific colors, and I immediately wanted to make a quilt bag in the star quilt pattern out of it. So I don't use a pattern except for quite a while back. I made on Instagram, I think she's Noodlehead something, but her name is Anna Graham. And she has a lot of different bag patterns, and she has a free one for a zippered pouch, like a wide mouth zipper pouch. And I have made so many of those bags that I just basically do the same thing, just whatever size of fabric that I have, and it's loosely based off of that pattern. And I was out of zippers, so I decided that this bag I was going to do with the drawstring, but I was putting the drawstring in, and I had basically half of enough of what I needed. So I ordered a little bit more of the cotton cord drawstring. Right now I've got it on some cotton yarn while I'm waiting for it. But I just use a basic quilt, star quilt pattern. I mean, I don't even know. I cut triangles out, piece them together, and then sew them together. And I really like this barn quilt feel. So I wanted to do this cream as a border on the top and on the bottom all the way around. And I didn't realize that I didn't get enough of it. I think I only got like a square, not even a fat quarter of this, and it wasn't enough. So I just did a little bit of edging on the sides, but I would have preferred to have it, you know, totally block framed in the creamy white fabric. And then the back is some of this red. So for the ends, this is just quilting cotton, and then on the inside I used canvas. And I find that if you use canvas for the outside and the inside, it's a pretty stable bag. If you're not using any heavier weight fabric at all, you probably should use fusible interfacing, or else it's not gonna want to stand up on its own. It's gonna be very floppy, which is fine if that's what you want. I do like my bag. Sometimes I like to just fold it over and I want it to stand up. So in that case, either using a canvas or fusible interfacing helps a lot with that. But I'm excited because I already knew I was making this bag, and then Simply Sarah Knits, that's her name on Instagram. So Sarah does stitch markers out of polymer clay, and she just did a release with some quilt squares. I just love quilts, you know, and it reminded me of the bag that I knew I wanted to make, and it had the red in it, and I immediately thought, okay, I've got to get that stitch marker set. So I did get that, and she had some of the cords that you can get to hold stitch holders, I guess, that you can kind of put on the end of your needles and slide your stitches onto it, that you're gonna hold for your arms, or, you know, your sleeve stitches, or for whatever reason if you want to try something on. So I got that in red from her, and she has a really good price on those if you're needing some. But that is my sewing for this week. So a little bit of a farm update. I've gone to check on the bees a few times. They have been coming out like crazy and hitting the pollen that we have been feeding for them in our big blue feeder, because we've been having some warmer days in the upper 50s and 60s. And then immediately going straight from that to the next day being way below freezing and ice and snow, I was kind of worried about the bees. So I've been out there to check. Of course, they have propolized everything shut, so we would never open the beehives whenever it's this cold. But you can see, I'll put some footage up so you'll know what I'm talking about. Anytime that bees die in the hive, or anytime there's any trash or anything in the beehive, the bees will clean that out, and they fly the dead bees out and push them out of the hive. And I like to kind of keep an eye on how many dead bees are coming out, so I know how everybody is doing in the hive. There shouldn't be too much activity during the winter, but we've had so many warm days that there is. So I'm wondering if the bees are confused or how they're holding up. They should not be laying many eggs during the winter. They should be trying to conserve and huddle and stay warm and eating through their honey supply that we left for them. And thankfully I didn't see too many crazy amounts of dead bees until we did get the ice storm. And then I did see quite a few being pushed out all at once. So I know that the cold hit them pretty hard, but that's normal. So I'm anxiously awaiting the next few months whenever it will turn spring and we'll have some consistently warm days where I can open up the beehives and check on the queen, make sure the queen is still okay in each of the hives and that they're all doing well. Our chickens cracked me up because this is their first Well, there's been one other day where we got some big snowflakes and they didn't seem to mind that, but this was a lot of ice and they don't care if it's raining, if it's storming, if it's coming a big old storm, they don't care. They are out running all around and scratching and eating any bugs they can find. They don't care. The water doesn't seem to bother them that much. Although we say a lot of times around here madder than a wet hen, so I'm not sure how accurate that saying is. More things we say in the South. But anyway, we went to let them out, and I had to, of course, break up their water because it is froze solid. And my young son, he does a great job. He actually has a lot of responsibilities with the chickens and does a lot of the work, and he takes good care of them. But I wanted to make sure that their water wasn't froze solid. So I did have to break that up. I've been breaking that up every morning for them and giving them fresh water. So I opened the door and we tried to get them to come out, and they just kind of looked around and they were like, shut that door, we are not coming out, are you crazy? So they did not venture out of that coop for 1 second while it was sleeting, and then it did turn to snow a bit, but they didn't come out all day. And then the past few days they've actually kind of been in their little flock, staying together, going around in the snow. So it's been cute to watch. I think that's all I've got to share for this episode. Don't forget that the Bees Are Friends Send Along is still going on. So you can just type in that hashtag Bees Are Friends Cal and see everybody's progress. And there's lots of finished objects already. There are people that are still picking out their yarn, about to cast on, and that is fine because y'all have plenty of time. It runs through March 31st of 2022. So if you want to get in on the fun, you've still got time. So thank y'all so much for joining me today. I believe we are fixing to take a walk down to the pond. And if you'd like to join me, then stick around. Otherwise, I will see y'all next time. Bye. Happy knitting.
Why